Small wine and cider producers across the state took a collective sigh of relief. Last year, a provision was added to the state budget and was passed by the legislature that would require small wine and hard cider producers to sell product through distributors rather than directly to buyers. Set to take effect on January 1st, the move would have been extremely costly for many breweries, enough to put some out of business. Lawmakers worked until the 11th hour to repeal the provision before it went into effect. We spoke with Attleboro's state legislatures and brewers from Homestead Hard Cider to learn more about what this bill means for them.
In the FY15 budget, there was a provision slipped in that would require pretty much all small wine distributors and hard cider distributors, or producers I should say, that they would have to go through a distributor, and that was sort of a cost prohibitive for a lot of the startup businesses.
3 days before Thanksgiving, I actually called the ABCC to kind of start our renewal process, and that's when we were notified about the change. So this is about 35 days before it's supposed to go into effect, and then also Thanksgiving week. So I start getting on the phone with people. People are out of the office, on vacation, so it was just kind of a surprise to us. I mean, all of this was passed in July, and then come to find out 35 days before it goes into effect that it's going to have a pretty serious impact on how we're going to continue as a company. So it kind of just threw us right away, because we knew that there wasn't a lot of time left to get the change done, and if it didn't get done, there would be some serious impacts to the way that we would be continuing our business in 2015.
There was somebody within the House or the Senate who decided to support the distributors and add this provision to the FY15 budget. It got in. It wasn't a controversial piece. Nobody really was thinking about the consequences of this, and the consequences of it only became known when the producers like Homestead Hard Cider were faced with a new law.
The very first day, I went to the Mass Legislature website. I typed in my zip code, and I found all of the legislators in my area. So Representative Hero, Senator Ross, as well as some others. And Paul was one of the first to get back to me, and he kind of got the ball rolling on our end. And then towards the end, we started being in touch with both of them on a very regular basis. So I mean, it was very surprising. I'd never really worked with legislators before, so it was very neat and very welcoming feeling. I didn't expect as much attention to our issue as we got, so it was definitely a great experience. Although the initial reason why we were contacting them in the first place wasn't so great. I mean, the support from the start all the way through the finish, 6 days or 8 days into the new year, was second to none.
I was pushing for it on the House side, as were a lot of other reps. We had to basically file emergency legislation with a preamble that would say it would take effect immediately. And it was just making sure, like I met with the speaker several weeks ago to make sure that he knew about this, and fortunately he did know about this before I even brought it to his attention. So there was a number of people that were working on it, but it was the sort of thing where it's not so much how much of a common sense idea something is that will help it along, it's how much support something gets, and this had an overwhelming amount of support, and that's why it was able to happen in a very short period of time. In other words, the fix for it was going to happen in a very short period of time. So
basically what that does is it creates a circulating water bath, and once the bottles are capped, you drop the bottles inside them and it kills the yeast.
If this had gone through and it had stayed as the new bill intended, we would have had two options. One would have been to sell directly to people's homes, which was never really an option that we wanted to explore as a full-time operation, or work with a licensed wholesaler. So there's many throughout the state, but the thing about the wholesalers is that obviously for the service that they're providing you, they want something, they want money in return. And with how small of a business we are, we had our first successful year, and to be able to take that kind of money out of a small and growing business, it just wouldn't have been sustainable.
The goal is right now we move one of these every 2 weeks. The goal is to get one of these out every week.
Well, if a small cidery or a small winery had to go by the guidelines of going to a distributor, it would have stripped their ability to compete away from them, and would have taken the control of their own destiny away from them. And I think they would have never been able to survive. I have sampled their product right here in Attleboro at Warren's, as a matter of fact, and only one. And you just offered me one, but I'm driving home. Yeah, I think it's just a wonderful product, and I think it's the right thing happened for this cidery here. I have another one called Stormalong Cider as well, so we'll give a shout out for them as well. So these two cideries exist in my district. And I think they're going to benefit for a long time. There's no doubt about it. Well, the funny thing was I joked with Kyle several times in the weeks coming up to this vote, and finally getting it done and then getting it signed and actually having it enacted. A lot of times you have to expect that it's going to go to the 11th hour, the 59th minute, and the 59th second. And in this instance, it did go the complete length of time. And at any point, anybody could have said, you're done. The governor's not going to sign it. And actually, Rosemary Power, which was his assistant that day, actually said to me that the governor was out of town, he was going to come back through the State House, but there's a chance he might not sign it because he had some constitutional issues. So my office got in touch to find out what the constitutional issues were. We went back and forth several times. He finally decided to let that piece go. But I still had to get that bill before him. And I can remember literally the ceremonial carpet from the governor's office to the chamber was laid for Charlie Baker. We're going into the swearing in, and literally Rosemary and I are still on the phone, and she let me know the governor just signed the bill. So I knew we were all set. It probably was his last official act, other than going out the front door. But yeah, it was kind of neat. And it brings me a lot of joy to have this kind of thing happen, and you know that you've got these guys over here who have worked so hard to do this and get this business established. It's true representation, and it brings me a lot of happiness.